All right, I thought I would do a video here on a chart analysis of Bitcoin. And first thing I want to say is, there are a lot of people who do a lot of crypto channels, and they have fancy graphics, and they have their caricature faces, and they have eye-catching things, and then when they do their video, they're just full of crap. Okay, I don't have the eye-catching stuff. You don't even see my face. I don't particularly want you to see my face. It's not. I mean, I'm a decent-looking guy, but that's not what it's all about. What I want to do is give you good information. Good information. I'm not looking for clicks. If you click, great. If not, whatever. If you like the video, I'm giving you a Kaspa address that you can tip me if you are so inclined. But let's look at the chart of Bitcoin, because here's the deal, guys. I know most of you are watching this because you saw a link to it in a Kaspa channel. That's great. But the reason I'm doing Bitcoin is because as Bitcoin goes, it seems that a rising tide lifts all boats. And Bitcoin, despite the fact, I'll tell you this right now, I own about $80 worth of Bitcoin. This is not my pony. Nothing is riding on it. As a matter of fact, the money I have in Bitcoin was given to me when I bought a ledger, a year ago or so. They gave me like $30 worth of Bitcoin or $40 worth of Bitcoin, and it's doubled. So anyway, we are looking at a chart of Bitcoin, and I'm telling you, this is a really, really interesting chart, and it would be a real disappointment if it fails. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you where I think this chart is telling us Bitcoin is going to go. Let's start with shock and awe. Bitcoin, and I'm not going to speak in terms of absolutes because anyone who does that is an idiot. I'm speaking in terms of probabilities. And I want to say there's a 75 to 80% probability, if this chart is triggered, that Bitcoin surpasses 300,000 and goes to a minimum target of $320,000. Let's look at the chart. First thing I want to show you is right here in this little middle section that I'm hovering over here. Here we can zoom into it a little bit. This is an inverted head and shoulders pattern. This little pattern has broken out. And now it has gone sideways for almost a month, not quite. Okay, this is a small inverted head and shoulders pattern that formed from the second week of April through about mid-May. Then it broke out. Okay, now let's back out just a little bit more. There's another inverted head and shoulders pattern right here. It would be the left shoulder, this would be the head, and this would be the right shoulder. It is still in the process of forming. This pattern would break out with a move to, let's call it, because this blue line is the neckline to it. So I would say we get up to 72,000, 73,000. This inverted head and shoulders pattern will break out at that point. And if it does so, the target would be measured as the depth of this pattern. We can do that real quick. We just go measure the depth right there. We take our little measuring stick, and let's say it breaks out in about a week. I'm not saying it will, but if it does, that gives us a target of $90,000 for Bitcoin. Now here's the deal. If Bitcoin reaches $90,000, we now need to zoom out on this chart. and take a little bit larger look at things. What do you see here? I see a huge inverted head and shoulders pattern. Don't know what this right shoulder is going to look like. It could even not be a right shoulder forming. By the way, we had an inverted head and shoulders pattern at the bottom of this big potential inverted head and shoulders pattern. Let's measure the big pattern. We measure from the neckline down to the bottom of the head. We end up with a huge measurement there because the bottom of the head was down under 16,000 while the neckline was at around 71,000. I'm doing this on a log chart. Some people say, Jim, no, you don't do it on a log chart. You do it on an arithmetic chart. To which I say, no, you do this on a log chart, not because it gives you a more impressive measurement, but because people don't buy and sell based on arithmetic. They buy and sell based upon percent gain. And a logarithmic chart measures the same percentage as a constant vertical distance. So we measure that target from the big inverted head and shoulders pattern, and we end up with 322,773. I'm calling that 320,000. So what is it going to take for Bitcoin to give us a trigger or a breakout that will say, indeed, we now have a $320,000 target? What will that take? It'll take getting over this little red line right here that is currently around, today it's right around 73,400. So in other words, if Bitcoin ends up with a roughly 10% gain, or a little bit more than that, then we start to get into breakout territory. Now you might say, well, Jim, that $320,000, that sounds kind of crazy, don't you think? Well, it certainly does sound very aggressive, but let's take a look at what Bitcoin has done since this chart, which is Coinbase, and it goes back to 2015. If you look at it, first thing I'll show you is kind of interesting. By the way, that would be a happy face up there if it does that. First thing I want to show you that's really interesting is that we had a triangle that formed from 2017, about the middle of 2017 through 2020, and it had a target that was met. And if you look at the percent target here, it is identical to the percent target that we're looking at here. Additionally, if you look now, this is a little concerning, but Bitcoin appears to be in a bit of a rising wedge. But here's the thing. In this particular case, that's not an issue. And I will tell you why. Rising wedges tend to be a bearish formation, but that's because as you get out into the end of the wedge, the swings become so small that buyers lose interest. Okay? Let me say that again. The reason rising wedges are bearish is because as you get further and further out into the rising wedge, the swings in price from low support to high resistance, they become so small that buyers lose interest. And when buyers lose interest, sellers take over. In this particular case, if we were to even extrapolate these lines out to 2028, which I'm doing right now, our support line is at 254,000. And our resistance line is at 854,000. Do you think buyers will lose interest when they're looking at a $500,000 swing from support to resistance? I don't think so. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if we break out over this red line here, we probably tag this upper white line, wherever that might happen. And that minimum target of $320,000, we then realize, indeed, 320K is a minimum. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out because, at least for right now, but by the way, like I said, I own about $80 worth of Bitcoin. I have no plans to buy more Bitcoin, but I realize the role that Bitcoin plays. I realize the importance of it being a first mover. And just to add to that idea, that's the reason I am so bullish on Kaspa, is because Bitcoin was the first mover in blockchain, Ethereum was the first mover in smart contracts, and Kaspa is the first mover in block DAG. So there you have it, a crazy projection, insane perhaps, but I don't think so. Again, look at sort of the symmetry here. Same percentage in the height of this triangle to the target as we have in the height of this pattern and its target. You know, you could, well, I don't want to say this, but you could even perhaps make the case that instead of an inverted head and shoulders pattern, we have a huge triangle. The only problem with doing that is if you think that this is just a bigger triangle and this is resistance and this white line is support, if you think that's the case, then you have a problem, because then you have to say that your target is closer to 600,000 upon breaking this upper line of resistance here, this pink or red line. So anyway, I thought you might enjoy this video. Again, hey, I apologize. No fancy graphics, no clickbait, no insane, I'm putting another coin down, I'm saying it's going to go to zero, and I'm not over here telling you that that Bitcoin is based upon something other than what's based. In other words, I'm not getting into the technicalities of things because so many people have butchered when they try to get into technical stuff. I'm talking about the actual operation of blockchain, Lightning Network, all that. I'm not even going there. I understand Kaspa. I do understand Bitcoin. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is an extremely, extremely bullish chart. By the way, I just realized something here. I had my dates off the screen. So here, I just adjusted that so you can now see these dates down at the bottom. This inverted head and shoulders pattern has taken 3.5 years to form, and this triangle took a little bit more than 3 years to form. So, guys, I think there's amazing symmetry in this, and I believe if we get over this red line right here that's currently at about 73,000, then you start to talk about at least a 4x from there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have fun.